They told you education is the key. They said, go to school. But why are so many graduates purposeless and jobless? On EduShift, we spot the cracks. We challenge the educational system. Torn between science, arts, and commerce, we bring clarity and answers to your questions, and we light up the path for a generation ready to stand out. Come enjoy discussions with educators, employers, and counselors. Let us fix this problem of career misalignment and help you discover yourself. EduShift, only on Global TV.
Hello there and welcome to another episode of EduShift, where we'll help you shift towards education that aligns with purpose. I am your host, Priscilla Obasi, and today we're talking about a topic that is urgent and that is often underlooked. Now we're talking about creating inclusive education for all. Creating inclusive education for all. Now when we talk about education, right? We often imagine children sitting in classrooms, raising hands, taking exams. But for millions of Nigerian children with, either disabilities of one form or the other, talking about eye impairment, speech delay, neurological problems, person with disabilities generally, that image is a dream obstructed by either the stairs, the narrow corridors, non-adjustable desk, outdated teaching methods. Yes. So today we're going to be exploring what it takes to ensure education is truly for every one of our children. That is, that schools are not just spaces for learning, but they are places of inclusion. Now, when we say inclusion, we mean a system where every child, regardless of their ability, regardless of their background, regardless of their gender, regardless of the circumstance, can learn, can thrive, and can belong. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, many schools still operate as if children are all the same, which of course is a mirage. We focus on academics, we focus on exam results, we focus on every other thing, but we forget that some children face both physical barriers, emotional barriers, learning barriers, name it, and that makes it difficult. It makes it difficult for them to access education equally. Let's talk about breaking those barriers on this episode. Now, first off, let us define what it means to have an inclusive education. Inclusive education is not just about the building, the ramps, or providing special deals. It is about designing learning spaces that caters to everyone, every type of learner. Training teachers to adopt their teaching methods or adapt their teaching methods for the different needs of different children, to create a curriculum that recognize different abilities, talents, and learning styles, and to foster a culture where no child feels left out. No child feels like they are, less than others, right? So, did you know that in countries like Finland, classrooms are designed so that children with visual or hearing impairment can learn alongside their peers seamlessly? Accessibility is built in during the construction process and is not added as an afterthought. And this is part of the issues we have, with our educational system. Here in Nigeria, many schools are still laid back. They still lack the basic accessibility. Imagine a child in a wheelchair being unable to enter the classroom, or a child with dyslexia that has, that struggles in silence because the teacher doesn't know how to help. Inclusive education is a human right, a fundamental human right, right? And it's not a privilege. I was opportuned to be, to work with children. And on one of these days, I go to a school. I see a child that has delayed speech. Child well over 6 years is having serious delayed speech, and the teacher, not knowing this unique, problem with this child, sees that child and starts to scream, communicate, talk to me when you want to do a thing, extensively trying to talk that child to, and making that child feel like the child is not doing enough. Unknown to that teacher, that child has delayed speech. This means that the child will not be able to speak properly until a certain age, right? The child will not be able to speak like their peer or like his or her peer in that classroom. So you cannot compare that child. But this teacher kept pushing that child and kept, warning that child to make sure, talk, stop muttering words, make sure you open your mouth and talk. Now I understand that the teacher might mean well for that child, might want that child to outgrow whatever it is, or might feel like the child is being, it's not being exposed enough, or the child has been maybe spoiled, for lack of a better word, spoiled by their parents. But that is not the case in most of the situations. And inclusive education would mean that schools intentionally drill teachers, train them to understand unique challenges of children, and not just assume that every child is the same, right? So if we understand the challenges, physical barriers, children environment, school environment that would need ramps, that would need accessible toilets, that would need classroom designed without wheelchair access, or with wheelchair access, I beg your pardon. Even basic navigation in the school can be a daily struggle for a normal child, let alone a child that is maybe physically challenged with, their legs and all of that. It would be a double struggle. Now, learning barriers, like I said, children, or teachers rather, are often untrained in handling children with visual, auditory or cognitive challenges. Classrooms may lack resources like braille books, sign language interpreters, and adaptive technology. I know that there are special schools that can cater to children with hearing problems or, eye impairment and all of that. But there are classrooms. Classrooms are supposed to be designed in a way that it, carries everyone along. Every child can be a member of that class. And there's something about social, having that social, mixing with other children. Sometimes it's what every child needs, right? So you don't seclude a kind of child. For example, you have a child that has some kind of, what do they call it? A child that, has some birth defects, a child that is not able to, they call them autistic children, right? They do not always like them to be alone. Sometimes having them socialize with other kind of children helps them improve. So the solution is not creating a school for the blind, or creating a school for the deaf, or creating an autistic school for autistic children and other kind of deformities, that, as you may want to call it. But it is creating a classroom that is able to integrate every kind of child, and that is possible. Now there is the cultural and social barriers. The stigma is actually real. Some children are bullied, some children are isolated, or even discouraged from attending schools. Families sometimes want to hide their children. They used to say that this issue of children with neurological order is becoming a thing now. But I want to believe that it has always been. What used to be the practice, back then, is that when your child has this physical challenge or, mental challenge, some parents deliberately just hide them away from the society. So it was not out there in the open. Parents will keep their children with such kind of challenge in the house, and society really didn't know they existed because of how they are hidden. But right now, schools are trying to integrate them with sometimes more money for the fees you get to pay, and that is why it's becoming more open. There are other kinds of speculations around the increase with children having this kind of disabilities right now, and they are trying to carry out every kind of research to find out what is the cause. But I personally want to believe that it is becoming a thing right now, because information is at our fingertip. People are becoming more aware. People are owning up to it. People are becoming more shameless about it, because, children are a gift. So keeping children at home is not the solution. Sometimes they believe school is not for them, and they seclude a great child with a great potential because they feel like they are not like the other children. This is not what it should be in today's world, in today's time and age. So inclusion is not just about the buildings, it's about the attitude, it's about the policy, it's about the practice. How intentional are we with this practice and these policies that we implement on a daily? Do we factor these children into the policies? Do we even think about them? Do we even, sometimes you might not really understand until you have a child a child like that. And how many of our leaders, and sometimes when we have people at the top that have such experience, what they do is they just find solution for themselves. They can either take that child abroad, fly that child out of the country and solve their problems, forgetting that there are lots of other parents that exist in the country that may not be able to afford such, luxury for their own children. So inclusive education is not charity. It is fundamental rights. And this is part of what our policymakers should understand. When children with disabilities are not included, everyone, it affects us all. When they are included, everyone benefits. It fosters empathy. It fosters creativity. It fosters collaboration among all students. And economically, inclusion prepares children with disabilities to contribute meaningfully to society. They are not dependent. They are actually potential innovators. They are potential leaders. And they are change makers. Until we are able to harness the potentials in them, we would be bankrupt or whatever it is that they bring to the table. Now, psychologically, inclusive spaces improve confidence. It improves self-worth and social skills. No child, I repeat, no child should feel left behind simply because their body or mind functions differently. Creating inclusive facility includes, number one, creating physical infrastructure, that is, ramps and elevators for wheelchairs and access. You create adjustable desks. You create wide doorways and accessible toilets. Proper lighting and acoustics for visually and hearing impaired students. Curriculum and teaching methods. The use of assistive technology, screen readers, braille, speech to text. Teachers should be trained in special needs education. We have that going on, but it is not as rampant as it should be, as these things are becoming something that society is becoming more aware of. So we need to have adaptive learning materials and tactic tools. The school culture. Bullying is one thing that is common with schools, even amongst normal children that are, developing normally. Bullying is a culture. How much more a child that is impaired one way or the other. Now, anti-bullying policies and peer sensitization programs should be something that should be inculcated in our schools. We should celebrate diverse achievements and not just academic grades. Yes, ensuring that extracurricular activities are inclusive. Extracurricular activities including sports, arts, debates. Every child has abilities and it should be showcased. Not everyone is academically gifted. Not everyone will thrive academically. Someone will thrive in sports, some will thrive in art, some will thrive, in public speaking and all of that. And the government and policy support is something that is also needed. Schools need funding and guidance to implement inclusion. It is not cheap to run a school. And even our government schools that we believe should have all the access to funds do not even have all these things at the fingertip. At most or at best, we have private schools trying their best for those that can afford it. So we need all of this implemented, firstly, in our government institutions that should be made affordable to the common man. Teachers need certification and incentives to specialize in inclusive education because it is a special kind of education that not everyone can do. As a matter of fact, I feel like we need pediatricians to go back to the classroom to help educate teachers. Honestly, because these doctors know better. They know better because they have studied the human body. They know how you can better assist children with such difficulty. So our pediatricians should go to the classroom and help educate our teachers. If they find or if they have such children in their classroom, national policies should also ensure that inclusive education is not optional. Like we say, or like I have said, in this very episode, inclusive education is not luxury. It is a fundamental right. Now, every small change actually makes a difference. A visually impaired student using a Braille tablet can now participate in science experiments. A child in a wheelchair can or should may be able to join pairs in sports with adaptive games, because there are games around these things. Yes, there are games for everyone, and games can be created. That is where creativity comes in, and nobody should be left behind. And teachers should be trained also in sign language to open up, a world for hearing impaired students. Inclusion is not about, or is about the possibility. Let us put it that way. It's not about limitation. No, it is about shifting our mindset. It's about being open from these children, because these children can't, to what they cannot do, to what they can actually be empowered to do. What can we empower them with? That is the conversation. Like I say, every child has an ability, right? So parents, educators, policymakers, here's what we need to do. Number one, we need to audit schools. We need to identify barriers in infrastructure and learning materials. We need to train teachers more. Special needs education should be part of teacher training programs, yes, and invest in technology. Digital tools and assistive devices are essential. Include children in decision making. Ask them what they need. You cannot be thinking for them. They have minds and it works, right? So we should ask them what they need. We should listen and we should act as they tell us. Now, education is a right and not a privilege. When we break these barriers, we don't just help children with disabilities. We create a better school for everyone. So today, as you think about the classroom in your neighborhood, ask yourself, are they inclusive, or are we still building walls actually disguised as lessons? Let us join the kids right now in the edutainment segment before we come back and wrap up.
Hello everyone, we are students of Liberty Academy. Keep watching Edu Shift. So guys, I just finished my drama audition and the judges are clapping before I finished. I was born for the stage, I swear.
That's great, Ada. I'm happy for you.
Wait, didn't you go for the drama audition?
No, I didn't. I just don't think I have anything special to show like you do.
What? Well, drawings are amazing. You made a full comic book for our class project and the teacher even kept it on our table.
Yeah, but people clap for dancers and singers, not quiet kids with pencil. Is that a talent?
Who told you that, Tolu? Talent isn't always loud. Some of us shine on stage and others shine on paper. But shine is shine.
What if no one notices me?
Then we'll help them notice. That's what friends are for. Tomorrow, I'll stand beside you and introduce you like the star you are. You are not invisible. You are just behind the scene. Without people like you, people like us have nothing to stand on.
You really think I have a chance?
You don't need a chance, Tolu. You already have a gift and it's time to let the world see it.
Every child has a gift. Some are seen, some are discovered, but every gift deserves to be celebrated.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shan Victor and I'm 11 years old.
My name is Nadia Leokori and I'm 11 years old.
My name is Savannah Ivan and I'm 10 years old.
And we are here to talk about the adults in our lives.
Not just our parents,
our teachers, aunties, uncles,
and everyone who say they care. Sometimes I don't talk, not because I have nothing to say, but because I've said it before and nobody listened. I was told, you're too small to feel that way.
But I'm not too small. I feel sadness, I feel fear, I feel confusion. Sometimes I even feel angry and I don't know why. But when I keep quiet, it doesn't mean everything's okay.
Please don't wait for me to cry before I can ask you I'm okay. Don't assume my sadness means I'm fine. Ask me how I feel and wait long enough to hear the real answer. Teach me that it is okay to speak up and safe to be honest, because I'm not just a child. I'm a person with a head, with a mind, and with a voice that deserves to be heard.
So dear grown-ups,
please listen,
even when we're not talking.
Thank you.
All right, interesting one always there by our kids. We want to say thank you. What are the things you've learned from today's episode? I think it is an eye-opener for anyone that really sat down to listen. Now, as we wrap up, I want us to reflect. Our school is truly for all children. I'm sure you know the answers right there. Are we prioritizing grade over growth? Are we building buildings that actually teach, or just buildings that house desks? Breaking barriers isn't a project, it is commitment from governments to educators to parents and communities. If we invest in inclusive facilities, inclusive teachings, and inclusive mindsets, we all produce children who are not just educated but empowered. Because an inclusive school is not just a school, it's a launchpad for purpose-driven, confident, and capable children. This has been EduShift, where we help you shift towards education that aligns with purpose. And of course, I am your host, Priscilla Obasi. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. Until I see you again, stay aligned to an education that aligns with purpose. Bye for now.